Are you more than your job title? This is the Issues Watch podcast. Hi, I'm Don Meyer, Chief Marketing Officer at the New Jersey Society of CPAs, and welcome to the Issues Watch podcast. In today's workplace, it's easy to get defined solely by your job title, rather than be seen as a whole person. We pretend that only our professional side matters at work, but bringing your quirks, talents, and humanity to colleagues forges deeper loyalty and performance. Here with me to discuss who else we are beyond the job title is John Garrett, a self-described recovering CPA and former professional stand-up comedian, and the author of What's Your And? John is also a keynote speaker at the upcoming NJCPA convention and expo in Atlantic City. Welcome, John.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Don.
All right, let's jump right in. So your book and your upcoming keynote at our convention revolve around the concept of what's your and? So can you explain what that means and why it's so important for leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, who else are you beyond the job title? You're a CPA and something else, hobbies and passions and interests that you have outside of work. Like, what really makes you, you? When I'm speaking at the annual convention, it's going to be a room full of CPAs. Well, there's no differentiator there. And I was a CPA myself, so I know it's really hard. You got to go to college, you got to get the degrees, you got to pass the exam. It's not easy. But so you think when you walk through the door, this is my differentiator. I worked so hard for this, and everyone's like, grab a chair. We are too. Have a seat, type of thing. But that's not really what makes me me. Isn't the CPA side and people listening to this? That's not what makes you you. What makes you is the hobbies and the passions and the interests, the things that really light you up on a deeper level. And so, who else are you beyond the CPA or beyond the job title? And that's where the and comes in, because it's not an either or. You don't have to choose. You can be a CPA or you can be a college football fan. No, I can be both. I'm both. I'm a CPA and a college football fan, or and enjoy going to concerts, or and volunteering, or and cooking, or whatever it is. And so leaders, the second part of your question, it's so important for leaders to be human. I think we forget that as we move up the ranks in title, people put us on pedestals that is maybe unfair. And so it's up to us to come out from behind our desks, from out of our offices, from wherever we are, and meet people where they're at as humans, and let them see these other sides to us and find out the other sides to them. And then you can create human connections that then create sticky relationships that keep people longer. And, whenever people are leaving firms, well, they're leaving for a reason and they're going somewhere else. So why don't they come to you, basically? And
Right.
so that's just a tiny bit of it, but there's so many other good things that come from it. Bridging generational differences, bridging DEIA differences, critical feedback isn't so critical. All these things come when you bring the what's your and philosophy into your organization.
So why do you think so many of us are reluctant to bring our passions and interests to work? Are we afraid of embarrassing ourselves, or we feel like there isn't a safe space or something like that?
There's a lot of reasons. None of them are very heavy. They're 99.9% in our own heads. People are going to judge us. I'm not very good at, running. I didn't win the Boston Marathon. I'm not an Olympic gold medalist. No one cares, And so that's where I also coach people, just use the phrase, I enjoy. So I enjoy running. It doesn't matter what my time is. It doesn't matter if I just did a 3K. It doesn't matter, or a 5K or whatever. It's just I enjoy this, and I think it's because people feel like, well, I'm not paid to socialize. I'm not paid to get to know the people around me, but you really are. I mean, that's how business happens. And this works with client relationships, which I think happens a lot. But rarely does it happen on internal relationships, and especially vertically. The partner group at a firm might all know each other. but do the senior associates know?
Right.
And does it go that way? And so I think it's all in our heads of, I can hide behind my degree and certification because that's what I'm paid for. I think that's what I'm judged by. That's how I judge others. That's what I think is most important. But there was a study done over 100 years ago at the Carnegie Institute, found that your career success is based on, it was like 15% technical skills, 85% interpersonal relationship. I mean, human engineering, or yeah,
Wow.
what they called it at the time. So 15% technical skills is your success. And if you think about it, that's true. I mean, if you're the most technically sound CPA, you're not necessarily the managing partner. You're not necessarily the one that sells the most work. You're not necessarily the one that even does the most work. You just have the most FASBs memorized. Well,
Hmm.
whoop-de-doo. Like no one wants to be around that person, including yourself, but you can't run away. So, it's have the skills, definitely, but there's more to it than that.
Right. Especially these days with the advent or the evolution of advisory services and accounting. I mean, that's very much
Oh,
about
yeah.
relationship building and getting to know your clients or your customers. So I could see where, opening yourself up a little bit and exposing who you are and what you like and what you don't like. I could see that actually being an asset.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, computers and AI are doing half the work that, accountants did even when I started. So, having those technical skills isn't necessarily, a strong suit. Know what you're doing and be good at your job. Absolutely. I'm not belittling that at all. But what I'm saying is everyone else in the room is too. So
Right.
unless you're a savant, that's in the nth percentile that no one can touch, which if you're listening to this you're not, then be a human that does accounting. Don't be an accountant. That's the problem that this profession has gotten into over the last dozens of years. Is I'm a CPA. No, you're not. You're a human that does CPA work. You're so much bigger and broader and badder than a CPA. And don't let this little title pigeonhole you into this tiny little box. You're so much more awesome than CPA.
Right.
You're more than that, and no matter what your profession is, you're a human that does this work. So be the human.
Right. And I think this is a great message, particularly for recent grads and young professionals who, quite frankly, just don't have a lot of office experience. So
Yeah,
they're probably not sure how to act, how to behave, things like that. So, I mean, I think a message like this, saying, hey, no, it's okay to be unique and to show yourself for who you are and let people know, who you are. I think that's a great message for younger people.
yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, I think it's not just okay. I think it's mandatory. It really should be. I mean, if you're interviewing people and you ask them, well, what do you love to do outside of work? And they have nothing besides read the Journal of Accountancy. Well, then you know what? Maybe you're not the right fit for us. Because you're going to burn out. I mean, you're gonna burn out. I mean, that's it. If all you do is eat, sleep, and breathe accounting, then the future is not bright. It really isn't. And it's also good for the older generation that are getting ready to retire. I've talked to so many people that are like, I'm going to retire in the next 3 years and I don't know what I'm going to go do.
Hmm.
And I'm
Right.
like, really? Like you have more money than you know what to do with and a lot of time left and you don't know what you're going to go do because you've lost your identity into, what you think is safe and what you think is the definition of success. And really you've just abandoned yourself. So let's just go back and gather up some of these pieces of who you are and rekindle them a little bit. And
Right.
just what lights me up on a deeper level.
Right.
And as long as it's not illegal and it's not taboo, then of course you should share it at work. And if you're a leader, you should find out what the people that are reporting to you, what they love to do outside of work, what those ands are, and they should know yours. It just makes for a really rich, fruitful environment where better work happens, more work happens, and talent's retained. Everything's good.
So I saw an article, just the headline. I couldn't read the article, unfortunately, because it's behind a paywall.
Oh,
But
I
the
hate
headline,
that. I hate
but
that.
but the headline intrigued me, and it said, "It's not just you. No one can focus at work." And
Ah.
so let's talk a little bit about that. We've been talking a lot about how work and personal passions can overlap, make us better professionals. How does that idea translate into practical actions for listeners who may be stuck in their careers?
Okay. For instance, it's adult show and tell time. If you have during busy season, often the tax team will meet on a Monday morning of kind of here's what we're working on, here's what we need to hit this week, whatever. Well, what if it's 3 minutes where one member of the team gets up and does, or if it's a remote, does a 3 minute presentation of here's a couple of pictures of me doing my and a story about it. And then it's like, oh, wow, that's super cool. And if you're sitting there listening and you're like, wow, I don't think we have 3 minutes during busy season to do that. Well, then maybe you're not the right leader for that organization because 3 minutes isn't the dividends from this are so positive that it's worth a lot more than 3 minutes of time. But, just something like that's that simple that then all of a sudden creates, this human, it takes a peek behind the veneer of who someone is on screen or in person in the office to, oh wow, I didn't know that, I like that too, or I've never even heard of cricket, what's that all about, type of thing. There's follow-up questions there. When I fly, I get on the plane and I sit down, and I don't like talking to the people next to me because they're going to say something stupid at some point and I'm not able to leave because we're 30,000 feet in the air. And so when they say, what do you do? I used to say, oh, I'm a comedian and a keynote speaker. And they'd be like, oh, like, let me tell you who my favorite comedian is. And I'd be like, oh, let me guess, not John Garrett. And they'd be like, you're right, never heard of him. And then they go on and on. But now, since I don't want to talk to them, if I sit down, they say, what do you do? I say, I'm an accountant. And they put on their noise canceling headphones. Like there's never a follow-up question, ever.
Right.
And so that's the same as when you go to the annual convention, when you go to a business networking event, when you go to your office. Like if people say, who are you? Or even what do you do? It's, I'm a CPA and I enjoy, running. Okay, cool. I promise you there's going to be follow-up questions on the running. There's not going to be follow-up questions on the first one. And
Right.
so, when you do get in person, when you do meet, when you do interact with people, just ask them, hey, I heard this podcast with this guy, John Garrett. He has this concept, what's your and? I enjoy X. What about you? Type of a thing. And then have a couple of follow-up questions from that.
Right. Now you've mentioned running twice. Are you a runner?
I am not. I hate
Okay.
running so much. I just know that there's a lot of runners out there, and so I just wanted to appeal. But golf, cooking, yeah, no. I did a half marathon once, and that is far. And I found out by the time I finished, the winner was already back in Kenya, and I was like, that is bad for me. Like that is terrible.
Yeah, I had about, I guess it was about a 5 year period where I ran. And then it was because I had a goal. I wanted to run a marathon, and I did a few marathons, and then suddenly it was like one day I just remembered I hated running, and I just kind of stopped. So,
My
but
brain is just like squirrel brain, where the whole time I'm running, my brain is like I should be doing 27 other things. Is really that's my problem, and also too, I think from doing my podcast, also called "What's Your And," I found that I was talking to somebody that does run. That I grew up playing soccer for forever, and
mhm,
running was punishment. And so I think
that's
I
true.
forever equated running with punishment, and so I'm not sure I'm able to get over that hump. Uh, so
That's fair.
that's my excuse anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to it actually was good when my mind was scattered when I was running because it distracted me from the fact I didn't actually like running. What
There you
was
go.
what was doomed for me is when I couldn't get out of my head, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this as I was running. So but anyway, I guess we should
Right?
move on. So trying trying to help leaders get to that point where they can help their staff develop a human connection with each other and even with the leader. Is it important for leaders to be proactive about creating an environment or even situations where someone feels like they can feel seen for who they are, not just their job title? Does a leader need to be intentional about it, not just sort of have it be, occasional or spontaneous?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And by leader, it doesn't have to be CFO, managing partner level leader. It can be little group leader. It doesn't, if even though the tone might be different within your group, you're the leader. So you can set this tone, and you absolutely have to be intentional about it, because people have worked in places where they didn't have good leaders. And so they might feel like it's a trap, or that, you're just trying to test my loyalty to my job and my profession and this organization. And no, it's not a trap at all. I'm a human and you are too. I'm genuinely curious. And I love how we got off track on the and. We didn't get off track talking about technical accounting, anything.
Mm-hmm.
We got to, and so you're like, oh no, we got to get back on track. And I'm like, well, do we? Like, really? But absolutely, like, you have to be intentional with it. You have to make space for it. And the ideal situation is where you're leading by example. So then people see the behavior modeled for them. I mean, a lot of us, when we come into work, we don't know what we're supposed to be or how we're supposed to act or what we're supposed to do. So we model behavior of what we think is success in front of us. And that's, managers, seniors, partners at firms. It's, controllers and CFOs at organizations. It's, all of that. And so we model our behavior off of that. And if that's not, who we really are, we're totally cool with cutting off our left arm to become that, because that's what I need to do. And as a leader of an organization, you should want multidimensional human beings that are thriving in life. And thriving in life, and if you're living your best life, you're going to do your best work. And so you modeling living your best life shows them that's what I need to become. And then you're going to just have a room full of awesomeness. And they're going to stay, they're going to contribute more, they're going to be more engaged. Everything good is going to happen. I feel like this profession is stuck on, that, clients are number one, which they're not, and we have to make money. And the problem is that step 4 or 5 is take care of our people. Right. If our humans are living their best life, then I promise you 1, 2, 3, and 4 will happen. Your clients will be taken care of. You will be profitable. You will have succession plans. You will have, attract and retain talent. All of that will happen if you take care of the people that are working for you.
Yeah, thankfully, I am hearing more and more from accounting leaders that, to your point, people are becoming number one. So it's people, firm or company, and then customer or client.
Yeah.
And the rationale is, well, if my people are happy and my business is doing well, the clients are going to be happy. So, but I agree with you. That's I think a reversal where it used to be, where it's like, oh, make the client happy no matter how miserable your own people are. But it's good to see that has changed.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been talking about this for 10 years at least. I saw a podcast that I was on in 2015 where I've been talking about this. So it's neat to see that, people are on board now. And I believe it wholeheartedly, because if you don't have people, you're not going to have work. I mean, it's just it. All the clients are going to leave because you're not going to be able to do the work. So take care of your people, and then everything good will happen.
Right. And I think, I feel bad for, as I was saying earlier, for some graduates and young professionals, like, because they probably go into accounting because of all the stereotypes about the profession. They probably go in thinking they're supposed to be overly serious because it's, a quote unquote serious profession. And I actually worked for a very large company, probably 20 years ago, where it was about 20 of us, and it was communications and marketing people, supposedly the most creative people in the organization. And I remember an engineer coming up to me I'd been there about 6 months, and he came up to me and he said, I think your department is in trouble. And I said, what do you mean? Like with the higher ups? He's like, no, just like the culture of your department is bad. And I said, why do you say that? He said, because when I come down to your department, you could hear a pin drop. It is dead quiet. There's none of that exchange that you were talking about. Nobody sharing their true self and everything. So that's kind of when I knew. I was like, oh, geez, this is not a good situation. But I wonder how many young professionals feel like, well, they have to be serious because this is such a serious profession.
Yeah, I spoke to all the CEOs of the state societies get together, and AJ was there and everything. And so right after I spoke, one of the CEOs for a different state had to go do a conference call with a bunch of interns that were going to be coming in the biggest city in their state. And one of the interns during the call said, I'm a music minor. Am I going to have to, I grew up always playing the guitar. Am I going to have to give up playing the guitar in order to be a successful CPA? Legit
Wow.
question during this, a legit concern. And that is a serious problem if
Yeah.
someone from the outside looks at this profession and thinks that I'm going to have to decide between what lights my soul up and doing accounting.
Right.
And it shouldn't be that. It should be both. You should absolutely be able to do accounting and also use the money that you make to go do the things that light your soul up. And for the
Right.
small percentage of you listening that accounting lights your soul up, fair. But just know that 92% of us, based on my own research, it's something else besides accounting. And that's also fine. And so, you should be able to have the and. And I think that it should be mandatory that you should have the and.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope that people told this individual that it was okay to keep playing the guitar.
Well, he said, you're never going to believe this, but I just listened to a guy for the last hour basically beat this into my head that, absolutely you need to have the and. And
Okay.
if you're at a place where they're telling you you can't play guitar, then you need to go find a new organization to go work for because they're out there.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. All right, John. I think we'll leave it there. I really appreciate this. Looking forward to hearing you at the convention in less than 2 months, right around the corner. Thanks again for joining us today.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks, Don.
Thanks for listening or watching. For more information about bringing your passions and interests to work and finding your and, visit John's website at thejohngarrett.com. Lastly, plan to attend the NJCPA Convention and Expo June 3rd through 6th in Atlantic City to see John and all our other speakers. Register at njcpa.org/convention.